My daughter stopped breathing at 3:47 in the morning. I know the exact time because I was staring at my phone when the hospital called. I'd been awake for hours, scrolling through financial reports in my home office in Scottsdale, unable to sleep. Again, the screen lit up with St. Vincent's Medical Center, and something in my chest went cold before I even answered. "Mr. Brennan, this is Dr. Okafor. Emma's oxygen levels dropped significantly. We need you here now." I made the 20-minute drive in 12. The whole way, my hands were shaking on the wheel of my Mercedes, and all I could think was, this isn't how it's supposed to work. The drug works. I've seen the data. We cured this. My name is Richard Brennan. 6 years ago, I became a billionaire. Not from tech or real estate or some app that tells you where to eat lunch. From medicine, from hope. I founded Helix Pharmaceuticals, and we developed Permanox, a breakthrough treatment for stage 4 pancreatic cancer. The deadliest cancer there is. 3-month survival rate. We changed that to 3 years, then 5, then more. The FDA fast-tracked us. Patients called it a miracle. I was on the cover of Time magazine. The man who defeated death. And now my daughter, my 23-year-old Emma, was dying from the very disease I claimed to cure. Before we continue with Richard's story, if you're finding this as gripping as I hope you are, please hit that subscribe button and turn on the notification bell. It truly helps this channel grow and allows me to keep bringing you these powerful, thought-provoking stories. Your support means everything, and it only takes a second. Now let's get back to how this all began. Emma was diagnosed 4 months ago. It started with back pain she ignored because she was training for a marathon. Then came the weight loss, the yellow tinge to her skin. By the time she finally went to the doctor, it had already spread. I remember sitting in that consultation room at Georgetown Medical. We'd flown her back from grad school in Boston, and the oncologist was actually smiling, actually optimistic. "Mr. Brennan, you know better than anyone that pancreatic cancer used to be a death sentence. But with Permanox, Emma has real options, real hope." I nodded. I held my daughter's hand. My ex-wife, Diane, was crying quietly in the corner, and I felt this surge of something I can only describe as vindication. My life's work was about to save my own child. The universe was giving me a chance to be both the father and the savior. We started treatment immediately. Permanox isn't like chemotherapy. It's targeted, elegant. It works by essentially teaching the immune system to recognize cancer cells as foreign invaders. The first month, Emma's tumor markers dropped 40%. 40%. The doctors were thrilled. She started gaining weight back. Color returned to her cheeks. "Dad, I feel almost normal," she told me during one of her infusions. Like, I forget I'm even sick sometimes. But here's the thing about Permanox. Here's the thing I told every investor, every journalist, every desperate family member who reached out to me. It's not a one-time cure. It's a maintenance therapy. Patients need infusions every 3 weeks, for life. Think of it like insulin for diabetes, I'd explain. We're not curing the disease, we're managing it, turning a terminal illness into a chronic condition. People accepted that, celebrated it even, because what's the alternative? Death? Month 2, Emma's markers went up slightly, just 6%. "Nothing to panic about," her oncologist said. "Sometimes the cancer adapts. We adjusted the dosage. Month 3, they were up another 12%. The tumor had grown, not dramatically, but enough. We added a secondary medication, increased the frequency of infusions to every 2 weeks. By month 4, She was getting Permanox twice a week. The tumor was growing faster, and Emma was getting sicker. This doesn't make sense, I kept saying to her medical team. I've seen the trial data. Patients stabilize. They live for years. But they didn't they? That's exactly what happened. They lived for years, taking the drug continuously, never quite getting better, never quite dying. Just existing in this expensive limbo. I started reviewing files late at night, patient outcomes, long-term data, and that's when I began to see it. The pattern I'd somehow missed, or chosen not to see, during development. Permanox worked brilliantly for the first 6 to 8 months. Then something shifted. The cancer didn't disappear. It adapted. It found a way to coexist with the treatment. And once that happened, patients couldn't stop taking it. If they did, the cancer exploded back with a vengeance, more aggressive than before. We had data on a patient who couldn't afford to continue treatment. Stage 4 pancreatic cancer, stable on Permanox for 2 years. Insurance dispute delayed his medication for 6 weeks. He was dead in 4. I couldn't sleep after Emma's emergency. They'd stabilized her, put her on a ventilator temporarily, adjusted her medications again. She was 23 years old and had tubes coming out of her like some kind of science experiment. Diane hadn't left her bedside. Hadn't looked at me either. I went back to my office. Not the executive suite at Helix headquarters in downtown Phoenix. My private office at home. The one with the locked filing cabinets that not even my assistant knew about. I'd always told myself I kept these files for legal protection, CYA documentation. But really, I think I kept them because some part of me knew. Some part of me always knew. There were emails from Dr. Patricia Velasquez, our lead researcher during Permanox development. Patricia was brilliant, ruthless, and completely uninterested in anything except results. We'd met at Johns Hopkins, worked together for 15 years. She'd made me a billionaire. I found the email thread from August 2018, 7 years ago. Preclinical trials. Subject, Phase 2 modifications, confidential. Richard, the compound shows remarkable initial efficacy, but test subjects are achieving complete remission by month 9. This is obviously fantastic from a humanitarian standpoint, but I wanted to flag a potential business concern. If we're truly curing the cancer, each patient represents a single revenue stream lasting less than a year. At the proposed price point, that's roughly $380,000 per patient lifetime value. However, if we modify the molecular structure slightly, specifically the binding protein on the T-cell receptor, we can create a maintenance dependency. The cancer stabilizes but requires continuous treatment. Based on our models, average patient lifetime on therapy would be 4.7 years. That's $2.3 million per patient. Survival outcomes are nearly identical in both scenarios. They live, we thrive. Worth discussing? PV. My hands were shaking so badly I could barely scroll to my response. Patricia, interesting analysis. Let's model both pathways before the Phase 2 design lock. But for God's sake, be careful with this language. Maintenance dependency sounds like we're deliberately making them sick. RB. Her response came 3 hours later. Richard, we both know what we're doing here. I'm just the only one willing to say it out loud. Permanox can cure pancreatic cancer, or it can treat it indefinitely. One makes us good. The other makes us rich. Your choice. PV. I'd like to tell you I fought it, that I pushed back, demanded we develop the curative version, put patients over profits. But I didn't. I remember exactly what I thought when I read that email. I thought, nobody will ever know. I thought, a chronic disease is still better than death. I thought, I have investors to answer to, employees counting on me, a company to build. And I thought, I deserve this. After everything I've sacrificed, all the years of medical school and research and 80-hour weeks, I deserve to be wealthy. We moved forward with Patricia's modified version, the one that kept people alive but dependent, the one that turned a death sentence into a subscription service. The clinical trials were extraordinary, survival rates that shattered every expectation. The FDA was practically tripping over themselves to approve us. Patient advocacy groups nominated me for humanitarian awards. Nobody asked why patients never actually got better, why they needed the drug forever. Because compared to dying in 3 months, forever sounded like a gift. Helix Pharmaceuticals went public in 2021. Our IPO raised $4.2 billion. I personally netted around $900 million after taxes. I bought a house in Scottsdale with 11 bedrooms and a view of Camelback Mountain. I started dating a woman 20 years younger than me. I gave interviews about the future of precision medicine, and I filed away those emails, locked them up, tried to forget. But here's the thing about choices like that. They don't stay buried. They don't disappear just because you stop thinking about them. They wait. They grow. They come back. They come back in the form of your daughter on a ventilator, dying from the disease you could have cured but chose not to. I showed up at Patricia's house at 6 in the morning. She lived in Sedona, about 2 hours north of Phoenix, in one of those modern desert compounds that looks like abstract art carved into red rock. Her share of the Helix fortune had been substantial too. She answered the door in yoga clothes, holding a green smoothie, looking exactly like someone who'd never felt a single moment of guilt in their entire life. Richard, this is unexpected. We need to talk about Permanox. Something flickered across her face. Not surprise, recognition, like she'd been waiting for this conversation for years. Come in. Her living room was all windows and clean lines. I didn't sit. Emma's dying. I heard. I'm sorry. Are you? Because I've been thinking a lot lately about why she's dying. Why Permanox is failing her. And I went back through our old files. Patricia took a long sip of her smoothie. The files you insisted we keep despite my recommendation to destroy them? You knew. My voice cracked. You knew this would happen. The cancer adapts. It becomes dependent on the treatment. And then the treatment stops working. Of course I knew. We both knew. That was the point, Richard. The point was to save lives. No. She set down her smoothie with a sharp click. The point was to make money. That's always been the point. We're not the Red Cross. We're a pharmaceutical company. Emma is 23 years old. And she's had 4 more months than she would have had without Permanox. 4 months most pancreatic cancer patients don't get. You're welcome. I wanted to hit her. I'm not a violent person, never have been, but standing there in her beautiful house bought with blood money, my blood money. I wanted to break something. There's a cure, I said. The original formulation. It's still in the research database. We could manufacture it. We could save her. Patricia's expression didn't change. Sure. And then what? Every patient currently on Permanox finds out there's a curative version we've been withholding? The lawsuits would destroy Helix in a week. You'd lose everything. We both would. My daughter is dying. People die every day, Richard. That's not new information. What's new is that you suddenly care because it's personal. I drove back to Phoenix in a fog. Patricia's words kept echoing. You suddenly care because it's personal. She was right. God help me, she was right. Thousands of people were on Permanox, living with their cancer, dependent on our drug, paying $40,000 every 3 weeks. Some of them were going bankrupt, selling their homes, setting up GoFundMe pages, all while I collected dividends and gave TED Talks about innovation. I told myself it was okay because they were alive, because something was better than nothing, because I'd convinced myself that chronic management was the same as healing. But it wasn't, and I'd known it wasn't. I just decided my success mattered more than their suffering. I went straight to Emma's hospital room. Diane was asleep in the chair next to the bed. Emma was awake, barely. The ventilator had been removed, but she was on oxygen. She looked so small, so young. "Hey, Dad." Her voice was a whisper. "Hey, sweetheart." "I've been thinking." She paused to catch her breath. "I want to stop treatment." My heart clenched. "Emma, I know what you're going to say. But Dad, it's not working. I'm not getting better. I'm just existing. And I'm so tired." I sat down next to her bed, took her hand. It was cold. "What if there was another option?" She looked at me with those blue eyes, her mother's eyes, and I saw something I hadn't seen in months, a spark of hope. And it killed me. "What do you mean?" I told her everything, about the emails, about Patricia's modifications, about the cure we'd buried in favor of perpetual treatment. I told her the truth I'd been hiding from everyone, including myself. When I finished, she was quiet for a long time. Then, "How many people know?" "Just Patricia and me. And now you. So if you give me the real cure, if it works, it'll open up questions, investigations. Everything we built could collapse." Emma squeezed my hand weakly. "Dad, I'm not asking you to save me. I'm asking you to do the right thing." "They're the same thing." "No." She closed her eyes. "They're really not." I scheduled an emergency board meeting at Helix headquarters for the next morning. Didn't tell anyone why. Just said it was critical, attendance mandatory. They gathered in our glass-walled conference room overlooking downtown Phoenix. The board members, executives, legal counsel. Patricia was there too, sitting at the far end of the table watching me with an expression I couldn't read. I stood at the head of the table, opened my laptop, pulled up those old emails on the screen behind me. 6 years ago, we made a choice, and I need to tell you what we did. I laid it out. Everything. The original curative formulation. The deliberate modification to create treatment dependency. The emails proving we knew exactly what we were doing. The patients who could have been cured, but were instead turned into permanent revenue streams. The room was dead silent. Our chief legal officer, Howard, spoke first. "Richard, stop talking right now. As your attorney, I'm advising you to—" "I'm not stopping, Howard. This ends today." Patricia leaned forward. "Think very carefully about what you're doing. You're not just destroying yourself. You're destroying everyone in this room. Every employee. Every shareholder. Are you really willing to do that?" "My daughter is dying from a disease we could have cured. So yes, Patricia. Yes, I am." "You self-righteous hypocrite." Her voice was ice. "You're not doing this for Emma. You're doing it to make yourself feel better. To absolve yourself. Well, congratulations. You're going to bankrupt thousands of families who are currently alive because of Permanox while you play martyr. Then we'll make the real cure. We'll manufacture it. Save everyone we can. With what money? The second this goes public, Helix is done. Lawsuits, criminal charges, bankruptcy. You think you're being noble, but you're just being selfish. Again. Maybe she was right. Maybe I was being selfish. But I couldn't unsee what I'd seen. Couldn't unknow what I knew. And I couldn't watch my daughter die for a lie I'd told. I'm calling the FDA this afternoon, I said. Then the Department of Justice. I'm going to tell them everything and turn over all documentation. We're going to manufacture the curative version of Permanox and distribute it to every current patient free of charge. However long that takes, whatever it costs. It'll cost everything, Howard said quietly. I know. The news broke within hours. By that evening, I was on every major network. Pharmaceutical CEO admits to deliberately designing addictive cancer drug. Billions made by withholding cure. The scandal that will end Big Pharma. My phones, all of them, wouldn't stop ringing. Lawyers, journalists, patients, death threats, marriage proposals from people who thought I was a hero. I turned them all off. The FBI showed up at my house 2 days later. I gave them everything. Hard drives, files, emails, financial records. They asked if I wanted an attorney present. I said no. What was the point? Diane came over the night after the news broke. We'd been divorced for 8 years, barely spoke except about Emma. She stood in my doorway looking older than I remembered. Is it true? Yes. She slapped me. Hard. Then she started crying. Then she collapsed into my arms, and we both just stood there, sobbing in the entryway of my ridiculous house. Can you save her? She whispered. Can you really save her? I don't know. Maybe. The original formulation worked in trials, but we never took it to human studies. It's experimental. Risky. But it's a chance. It's a chance. Emma started the curative treatment 3 days later. Dr. Okafor agreed to administer it under an emergency experimental protocol. We had no idea if it would work. No idea if I'd destroyed everything for nothing. The first week, Emma got sicker. Fever, pain, weakness. The new compound was attacking the cancer aggressively, and her body was fighting both the treatment and the disease. The second week, her tumor markers dropped, 15%, then 30%, then 45%. By week 4, the scans showed tumor shrinkage, actual shrinkage, not stabilization, not maintenance, healing. She was sitting up in bed, eating solid food, when the lead federal prosecutor came to the hospital to inform me I was being indicted on 47 counts of fraud, conspiracy, and reckless endangerment. Was it worth it? He asked. I looked at my daughter, really looked at her, color in her cheeks, light in her eyes, a future. Yes. They took everything, the house, the cars, the bank accounts. Helix Pharmaceuticals declared bankruptcy within 6 weeks. The stock became worthless. Thousands of employees lost their jobs. Class action lawsuits filed by the dozen. Patricia fled to somewhere without extradition. Last I heard, she was in the Maldives, living quite comfortably on her offshore accounts. I'm writing this from a 2-bedroom apartment in Tempe. It's all I could afford after the legal fees. My trial starts in 3 months. My attorneys think I'll get 15 to 20 years. But Emma is in remission. Actual, complete remission. The cancer is gone, and the curative formulation of Permanox? The FDA fast-tracked approval. It's being manufactured by a non-profit consortium now, distributed at cost. Hundreds of patients are alive who would have died. Thousands more will be saved. I got a letter last week from a woman in Wisconsin. Her husband had stage 4 pancreatic cancer, on Permanox for 3 years, slowly dying. The new treatment saved him. She said I was a monster for what I'd done. But her children still have a father because I finally told the truth. I think about that a lot. About how the same person can be both the villain and the hero of the story. How the worst thing I ever did and the best thing I ever did were actually the same decision, just separated by 6 years and a lifetime of denial. Emma came to visit yesterday. She's back in grad school, starting her life again. She brought me groceries and stayed for dinner. Pasta, nothing fancy. We sat on my cheap IKEA couch and watched a movie, and for just a moment, it felt like maybe redemption wasn't about erasing what you did wrong. Maybe it was about finally doing something right. "Dad," she said as she was leaving, "I'm proud of you. Sweetheart, I destroyed people's lives, including yours. No, you saved my life, and you're saving others. That's what matters now." I don't know if I believe that. I don't know if years in prison will balance the scales or if anything ever really can. I don't know if telling the truth makes you noble or just finally makes you honest. But I know this. My daughter is alive. And for the first time in 6 years, when I close my eyes at night, I see her future instead of my fortune. Maybe that's not redemption, but it's something. It's a start. Before you go, can I ask you for a quick favor? If you enjoyed this story, please hit the subscribe button and turn on your notifications. It might seem like a small thing, but it makes a huge difference for this channel. Subscriptions help YouTube show these stories to more people who need to hear them, and notifications make sure you never miss the next chapter. Your support is what keeps this channel alive. It's what allows me to spend hours crafting these stories, making sure every word hits the way it should. And honestly, knowing you're out there listening makes every late night worth it. So subscribe, hit that bell, and let's keep this community growing. More stories are coming, and I can't wait to share them with you.